descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them? All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart one. And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Sonny Hostin's world just came crashing down. Greg Gutfeld exposed her darkest family secret on live TV, and now she can't hide from the truth. You won't believe what Gutfeld revealed about Hostin's ancestors. The View's resident race expert is scrambling to explain herself after this bombshell. Gutfeld didn't hold back, leaving Hostin speechless and viewers stunned. Get ready for the takedown of the year. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Sonny Hostin thought she had it all figured out. The View co-host was riding high on her Puerto Rican heritage, using it as a shield in countless debates about race and identity. But her world came crashing down in an instant, and Greg Gutfeld was there to pick up the pieces and use them as ammo. It was supposed to be just another celebrity puff piece on PBS's Finding Your Roots. Hostin probably expected to discover some distant royal connection or a heroic freedom fighter in her family tree.
We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? She's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Instead, she got the shock of her life. The show's researchers dropped a bombshell that left Hostin visibly shaken and struggling for words. As the cameras rolled, Hostin's carefully constructed image began to crumble. The truth came out. Her third great-grandfather wasn't just wealthy, he was a slave owner. Talk about a plot twist. Hostin's face turned pale as she realized her go-to argument about being a minority was about to backfire spectacularly. The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. Hostin's co-hosts watched in stunned silence as she fumbled for words, trying desperately to salvage her reputation. But there was no escaping the truth. Hostin stammered, "I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was... My family was originally from Spain and slaveholders." You could almost hear the sound of Hostin's world shattering. This wasn't just a minor genealogical discovery, it was a full-blown identity crisis playing out on national television.
True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? For context, Sonny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege.
Hostin tried to spin it, saying, "I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots." Nice try, Sonny, but that's not going to cut it. As Hostin floundered, trying to make sense of her newfound slave owner ancestry, social media exploded. Twitter users were quick to point out the irony of Hostin's situation. Here was a woman who had built her career on being a voice for minorities, only to discover she had more in common with the oppressors than the oppressed. But while some criticized Hostin for hypocrisy, others rushed to her defense. They argued that she was simply grappling with new information and shouldn't be judged for the actions of her ancestors. The debate raged on, with Hostin caught in the crossfire of a cultural war she never saw coming. And that's where Greg Gutfeld comes in. The Fox News host, known for his razor-sharp wit and take-no-prisoners approach, saw an opportunity and pounced. Gutfeld recognized that Hostin's revelation wasn't just a personal crisis. It was a chance to expose the hypocrisy of identity politics on a massive scale.
Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry.
With Hostin's credibility on race issues now in tatters, Gutfeld prepared to deliver the knockout blow. He saw what many missed. This wasn't just about Hostin's family history. It was about the dangerous game of identity politics that has divided the nation. And Gutfeld was ready to use Hostin's own words against her in a takedown that would leave her speechless. Greg Gutfeld was ready to strike. The moment he'd been waiting for had finally arrived, and Sonny Hostin was about to face a reckoning like never before. As the cameras rolled, Gutfeld's eyes gleamed with anticipation. He knew he held the key to exposing Hostin's hypocrisy, and he wasn't about to let this golden opportunity slip through his fingers. The tension in the studio was palpable as Gutfeld began his assault. He didn't just criticize Hostin, he systematically dismantled her entire persona. With surgical precision, Gutfeld played clips of Hostin's past comments on race, each one more damning than the last.
Apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word son in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sonny Hostin.
The audience watched in stunned silence as Hostin's own words were used against her, creating a devastating portrait of a woman who had built her career on a foundation of sand. But Gutfeld was just getting started. He turned to his co-hosts, inviting them to join in the takedown. They didn't disappoint. One by one, they added their own observations, each comment more scathing than the last. It was a feeding frenzy, and Hostin was the main course. As the segment progressed, Gutfeld's audience could hardly contain their excitement. They knew they were witnessing something truly special, a moment that would be talked about for years to come. Gutfeld had promised them fireworks, and he was delivering a full-blown 4th of July spectacular. With the stage set, Gutfeld prepared to deliver his knockout punch. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with sarcasm, as he uttered the words that would send shockwaves through the media landscape. Well, first, I just want to go on the record to let everyone know that I am very much against slavery. Very brave to say that on this panel.
But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. Everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the view's gravitational pull.
The studio erupted in laughter and applause. Gutfeld had done it. With a single sentence, he had exposed the absurdity of Hostin's situation and the entire charade of identity politics. It was a masterstroke of comedic timing and biting commentary. But Gutfeld wasn't finished. He pressed on, questioning how Hostin would reconcile her newfound family history with her frequent criticisms of systemic racism in America. It was a question that cut to the heart of Hostin's credibility, and one that she would struggle to answer. As Gutfeld continued his relentless assault, viewers at home were glued to their screens. Social media exploded with reactions, with many praising Gutfeld for saying what they had been thinking all along. It was a validating moment for those who had long felt that Hostin's arguments about race were hypocritical and self-serving. The segment wasn't just a takedown of Hostin, it was a broader commentary on the complexities of identity politics. Gutfeld skillfully highlighted how some individuals exploit these issues while conveniently ignoring their own histories. It was a nuanced critique that resonated with viewers who were tired of the simplistic narratives often peddled by mainstream media figures.
They're turning on me. So that makes Sonny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart one. Kat, think about that choice. Like, would any sane person want that job at The View?
Sonny Hostin's world was crumbling faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The View's self-proclaimed race relations expert found herself in the eye of a storm that threatened to sweep away her entire career. Just when she thought Greg Gutfeld's takedown was the worst of it, a bombshell revelation about her own family history exploded on national television. During a shocking moment on The View, Hostin dropped a truth bomb that left her co-hosts and viewers alike stunned. "I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican. I didn't think my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders," she confessed, her voice trembling with disbelief. The studio fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Social media erupted like a volcano of outrage and disbelief. One user captured the mood perfectly. Sonny Hostin, discovering her ancestors were slaveholders, is the unexpected twist we never saw coming. It was the plot twist that no one, least of all Hostin, had anticipated. Critics pounced on Hostin like hungry sharks smelling blood in the water. How could she continue to condemn others for historical injustices when her own family tree was rooted in the very system she railed against? The hypocrisy was thicker than molasses, and viewers weren't buying her shocked act for a second. The View's ratings took a nosedive as fast as Hostin's credibility. Viewers who once hung on her every word about racial issues were now changing the channel faster than you can say Ancestry.com. The show that prided itself on tackling tough topics was now facing its own reckoning. Behind the scenes, chaos reigned supreme. Producers of The View were scrambling like headless chickens, desperately trying to contain the fallout from Hostin's ancestral bombshell. It was damage control on steroids, but could anything save Hostin's carefully crafted image now? Hostin's co-hosts found themselves caught between a rock and a hard place. Should they stand by their embattled colleague or address the elephant in the room? The tension on set was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every glance, every hesitation spoke volumes about the turmoil brewing just beneath the surface. As clips of Hostin's past statements on race began circulating online, the contrast between her words and her newfound family history was as stark as black and white. Her impassioned speeches about systemic racism now rang hollow, tainted by the revelation of her own ancestral ties to the very system she had spent years condemning. The fallout from this genetic grenade threatened to change The View's dynamic forever. Would Hostin continue to position herself as the show's authority on racial issues? Or would she be forced to step back, her credibility in tatters? Gutfeld's takedown of Hostin wasn't just a TV moment. It was a seismic shift in the world of media credibility. This wasn't your average celebrity spat. It was a full-blown exposure of the fragile house of cards that is identity politics. Hostin's carefully crafted image came crashing down faster than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. But here's the real kicker. Hostin's downfall is sending shockwaves through the entire industry. It's a wake-up call for every talking head who thought they could build their brand on a shaky foundation of moral superiority. The message is clear. Your past can come back to haunt you, and when it does, it won't be pretty. So, what's next for Sonny Hostin? Can she weather this storm, or is her career about to go down in flames? One thing's for sure, the view from here doesn't look sunny at all.